I've done a fair share of Celeste challenges on my channel, but only one of them used the extended variants mod. This mod has a lot of things in Celeste, like you can even try to beat the game as a feather. Should I try it? So today, I'll be taking advantage of the mod and using one more variant, Wind. Here's how it'll go. I'll try to beat the game's story from prologue to epilogue, while there's either right crazy wind or left crazy wind. I allowed myself to switch from left to right at any point because otherwise many rooms would just be illegal. However, switching mid-screen is impossible as it only resets once you die and restart it. With that rule set out of the way, will we be able to beat the game? Well, let's jump straight into prologue. I tried left wind first, just to test out how bad it actually was, and yeah, turns out this kind of wind is pretty dang strong. Needless to say, I did have to change to right wind, cause otherwise the bridge section would be impossible. Okay, now let's begin the challenge for real. In Forsaken City, we can see the good, the bad and the ugly. Obviously, the good part is being able to cross rooms as if I was a speedrunner god. Just take a look at this. The ugly was the kind of rooms that I just died once, realized my stupid mistake and managed to beat it afterwards. The bad, however, is usually very bad. You see, in most rooms, you go forward, or maybe you go left, which makes it simple for us. However, in rooms like this one, you have to go both ways, first forward and then left. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I can't change the wind direction mid-screen. That means I'll have to figure out a way to beat each room like this with either left or right wind completely. For this one, however, I tried right wind until I actually beat it. My main problem came from this last part. Even with a wave dash, I wouldn't have enough distance to grab onto the left wall. The wind was also too strong for a climb jump to work. What did eventually do the job was dashing up left and grabbing onto the opposite side of the wall. We did have one more hiccup in the next room with right wind, but it was a matter of grabbing onto the right side of the disappearing platform and doing a hyper on it. I also have to address some important information about wind that might help us later on. First of all, Tech 1. Crouching makes it so that Badeline doesn't get dragged by the wind. Tech 2. Walking in the direction of the wind is just about as fast as the wind itself, only a tiny bit faster. This means that if at any point we ever find a room where we need to complete an upwards or perhaps a downwards drop, we can just face the opposite direction of the wind and do it. Thirdly, if you're right next to a wall, the wind won't push you either. Old Sight is pretty underwhelming for this challenge. Until we unlock dream blocks, there's about 0 obstacles in the level. In fact, it's easier than normal. Once we unlock them though, it becomes even easier since they're not affected by wind at all. The room with the many blue coins in the Badeline sequence took a while to figure out, but it came down to using the dream block in the middle correctly to be able to get all of them without any issue. The last room in the chase was troublesome as well, and for similar reasons than the Forsaken City one. You just have to go left and right so much. There are multiple steps you need to do in order to beat this the way I did. Take the shortcut here, take the other shortcut here by using Tech 2, and be skillful at the end. Then Awake is pretty quick. Okay. We now enter the difficulty spike level, where I actually learned something new. Apparently, wind can't push you to the next screen, so take note in case we end up needing it. We'll call it Tech 4. If you haven't noticed yet, I've been doing everything so far with right wind. I mean, come on guys, we all know prologue doesn't really exist and I tried to keep it that way for as long as possible, which means I struggled here and there, but this made me use the tech I had found. In the room with the key, I had to use Tech 2 to be precise. In this one, I had to use Tech 1 to crouch on the platforms to wait, and same thing in this one. Let's actually stop and talk more about this one, cause it has a pretty long jump, and grabbing the refill crystal just won't cut it. This means I had to get from this platform all the way to here. Doing a hyper came out short, so unfortunately, I did have to use left wind in order to beat it. Yeah, call me lame all you want and throw tomatoes at me, but don't worry, the difficult rooms will start coming up later. For now, we have to become Oshiro's slave and clean all his mess. The first button was extremely easy, and the second just had this leftways room, which we could still do with right wind by using the dash crystals cleverly. This room took me a while for some reason. I don't know, I think I just kinda sucked at doing Tech 2 back then, cause what the hell is this? At last, we can finally use the elevator to go up. Or at least I wish I could use the elevator to go up. You see, that so-called Tech 2, which isn't even tech, it's just game knowledge, but whatever, it also has a downside. You see, why did I say you see twice? You know, whatever. Turns out sometimes you do want to move sideways. For example, when you're trying to wall jump. Wall jumping in a scenario like this will just force you to hit the dust bunny above you. Left wind wouldn't even help here either, so we have to figure out a way right now. I actually managed to get to the very last bunny by grabbing onto the left wall first, but I was stuck on what to do after. A lot of trial and error happened before I realized you can just barely do one-sided wall jumps while avoiding the dust bunny, giving us the free win. Wind has many disadvantages other than that one that I didn't even mention. It's really annoying pairing wind with these Mario Bros 2 thingies, cause you activate one and then it just pushes you back into them. This room actually made us do the diagonal dash thing once more, until we eventually get to this one. Yeah, it's safe to say we're absolutely using left wind here. If you're wondering, the demo setup is also about as easy as it usually is. In the last part before the Oshio chase, I pause buffered for some reason, when it seems to be similar to what it usually is, but the important part now is the actual Oshio chase. And it's pretty much unaffected, which means we can move on to Golden Reach, the wind chapter? Let me quickly answer your question. No, the wind doesn't stack or anything, instead the wind that already existed gets replaced with my wind. Will the chapter be as annoying as usual? Well, let's take a look. The first couple of rooms seem pretty normal. It's not until the blue coins room until we get into a big problem. With right wind, we can only get the right one, but we cannot reach the left one. With left wind, however, we're able to get the right one and then the left one, but we cannot come back down after grabbing the left one. There were little to no movement options I could try left, so I asked the goat himself if he could help me, and Round Window sent me this. We'll be seeing more of him in the future. For now though, we gotta spam jump to climb this wall really quickly. I really wanted to skip the moving platform, so I tried doing the skip, until I realized another thing we could take advantage of with the wind. If Badeline is looking in the direction the spikes are facing, or basically if the wind pushes Badeline towards the spike and she jumps really quickly, the spikes won't kill her. Or at least that's how I understand this, it's pretty confusing. That means by just mashing against the wall, we can just avoid getting killed. That's Tech 5 for you. The next room is really small, but it complicates our life. To even get to the platform, we have to do a whole bunch of clinging on to tiny portions of the walls. And that's not all. To control the platform, we have to point up or down on our controller. This is a big problem, because we usually just crouch so that we don't get pushed off the platform. But if we crouch, then the platform will just not go up. And if we do look up, then we're gonna fall off. This is really just the ultimate stupidest combo with the wind. But we're just looking at the small picture, the small blocks. What happens when you look to the big ones in a big room? Well, you just skip it, cause I'm not going through all that pain. A couple of rooms later, we have to use Tech 5 once again. And then once more. However, this time, we can see just how powerful this tech can really be. Although I ended up having to use left wind here instead of right wind because of this upper section, but whatever. In this long bubble room, we find the going back and forth problem way too much, so instead I just used the super hidden path upwards. This is where the level twists and actually becomes fun for us, cause instead of having the old usual strong wind against you, we can just speedrun everything with this right wind, to the point of having no more hard rooms at all. This brings us to... You probably already know I'm not the biggest fan of this chapter. Much to my despair, this chapter was a big pain. Why? Well, take a look at this. What is going on, you might ask? Well, red bubbles are affected by the wind. You might think this is a problem with the code because the developers didn't account for this, but this actually appears in Farewell, which means it's totally intentional. The thing is, we're supposed to come up here, but there's just no way to do that with the intended bubble, and none of the other bubbles help, obviously. Dashing upwards won't work, so my only resource left was obviously to spinner stun. When we get to this part, I didn't really feel like going to grab the key, so I just skipped it entirely. Or at least I planned so. However, babbling up doesn't really work at all for the reasons I previously stated. This can be fixed by just dashing diagonally. We are now about to enter the final boss of the game. This room is so tough that not even a task is able to solve it. It's a stupid upwards bubble, and it's not even close to being possible. I told you all this chapter was a pain. Not only do we have to beat the B-side in order for this challenge to be possible, but getting the cassette sucks too for some reason. First of all, pressing the button to open the door is already annoying, because here you mustn't dash so that the block doesn't reset its position, but if you don't dash you just cannot cross that part. I ended up using the secret berry room to hit the switch. Even then, there's the cassette room itself. We have yet another instance of having to go right and then left. This wasn't actually as hard as I made it sound though, since a few hypers will get the job done. But now, let's actually start this stupid B-side. The B-side doesn't give us a great introduction, as the first room gave me psychological trauma. Not only is this bubble twice as fast now due to the wind, but after hitting the button, I'm doomed, cause this bubble is just there to troll me. I had to do a corner jump to skip it. Okay guys, I think I'm getting better with Celeste tech names, right? Corner jump, we got spinner freezing, spinner stunning. I know the difference now, let's go. Anyways, next room has more up bubbles, cause why not? Somehow I managed to dash upwards to completely avoid getting slaughtered. In this room I had to jump from this side of the block to its other side, which was completely irrational since the wind just made me overshoot it, or I tried to press left too early and died to the spikes on top of it. It took me a relatively high number of attempts to actually somehow get it. I used left wind for this room and accidentally used my key on the wrong freaking door and I had to restart. Yippee! Once I came back, the pain followed me cause I was in for a room full of pesky red bubbles. I was using left wind, so bubbles were going twice as fast. For this one, not even a diagonal dash down could get me to the bubble because of the wind. I also tried dashing down at the last possible moment to see if the wind dragged me into the bubble, but that had no future. Or did it? You see, if I bubble left and dash down, that had no future. But what if instead I bubbled diagonally first and then dashed down? I tried this and to my surprise it actually worked. Then the rest was very simple, and means we can get to this room. I tried using Tech 5 at first, but due to this platform that made me wall jump and hit the spikes, I couldn't manage to do it that way. If I did the normal route though, I would be stuck holding the platform without being able to get to the next room. This means I had to find a way to hold onto the platform without using my dash, or by using right wind. The problem with the latter option is that you cannot even get to the platform without using right wind. I also tried getting to the platform above with right wind without even going through everything else, and it was very close. So I kept on trying this strategy, and what do you know, we did it this way. The next room sucks so much though. There are so many bubbles that go up. First of all, obviously we did it with left wind. The first up bubble could be dealt with by cancelling it with a diagonal dash, however it's the next bubble that gave me the most issues. By dashing diagonally, you cannot reach the wall. You can't dash upwards either, since the bubble has a cooldown from the moment you enter it until the moment you can actually dash out of it, and it just takes too much time. You also can't bubble in any direction that isn't to the left. Although for some reason I spent 5 full minutes trying to do whatever this is. What? That's when I realized my obstacle was none other than a wall of spikes facing the opposite direction of the wind. And yeah, the problem now is timing this holy freaking tempo with the cycles, man. If you somehow get the cycles right, you're still not done for this room. The next bubble can be done with just another diagonal dash cancel, but the following one isn't as simple. I mentioned the cooldown earlier, and it applies here as well, since you can't dash out of it fast enough before you hit the spikes. In a random attempt when I did the diagonal dash cancel out of the previous bubble, I managed to corner kick off of the next wall, and would have made it if it wasn't for the cycles. And yeah, after a lot of pause buffering and a lot of time spent in this room, I ended up doing a corner kick and succeeded. We use right wing to get into the bubble, to get here and use tech 5 to climb up, and we keep encountering stupid rooms like this one. Well, at least it isn't cycle based or anything, it's actually up to your skill. With that, we can tech 5 our way into the last room of this section. And what a freaking room it is! Let's start with left wing. You can actually go up the first section by doing a bubble wall bounce. After that, the second section was really easy with left wing. Unfortunately, we then get to this one. If you dash diagonally from down here, you don't reach it. If you dash horizontally, you also don't reach it. This means left wing was cooked, and I needed right wing to beat it. With it, going up the first section was just as easy, but the second one was completely the opposite difficulty. This was way too far of a distance to cross it in just one dash. Unless we use corner boosts. Okay, I don't know how they work, but if you dash and jump really quickly off of a corner, you get a speed boost, which allows me to get to the first of these platforms. Reaching the next one took me a bit to figure out too, cause I kept dying because of the stupid cycles. Thankfully, there was a way to try to align the cycles to my advantage, that is by holding onto the wall. Then, by doing supers, I can get to the part I got stuck last time. And this time it was much easier, excluding this death. And that one. Okay, maybe it wasn't that much easier, but it did make it possible at least. Or that's what I thought until I saw the next room. What the hell is this? Yep, this seems pretty hard to do with right wing, huh? I guess all that was for nothing, cause remember all the corner boosts we had to do to get here? Well, you can just do one with left wing here and reach the dash platform. Yeah, that sucks. The last part is thankfully easy, so I can move on to the other side of the mirror. We're not even done with this B-side yet! Just when I thought things finally got better, I get hit with the first room of the section. I'm not even gonna go through all the failed strategies and attempts here, because this room took me an hour. And trust me, there were many failed strategies. Heck, in one of my strategies I even tried to learn how to C-bop. But none of that ended up working, so let's see what actually did. Okay, to start, super dash to the right with left wing, and then dash here. Don't worry about the button since we won't be pressing any. Make sure to refill abuse here and demo under the wall. Drop all the way down and dash under this wall here. Then just drop down and dash forward. Wait, how the hell did this take me an hour? I guess I was using right wing, but you know what? I don't care. Thank goodness, thank you devs that this chapter has no more complicated rooms. Okay, let's do reflection now. Feathers are a nice change of pace compared to what we've been through, but don't get me wrong, wind plus feathers isn't really the best combination out there. And apparently, wind affects you underwater too. We'll also be using Tech 1 a bunch to deal with Kevin. Maybe I shouldn't have praised the feathers at the beginning, cause after spending 3 rooms with them, I can say they're pretty janky. Pushing back against the wind is pretty time consuming, and feathers exist on a timer. Going up and down is also trippy, seems like we'll use Tech 2 a lot. With that said, the biggest issue in this level wasn't even a screen, no. For some reason, after going through this transition, the game just soft-locked me in a wall with no way out. Heck, I couldn't even press the pause button. I had to restart the entire game again. In the next attempt, I was about to get to the same spot as earlier, and I was gonna be careful this time. But you know what? The game decided to troll me again and soft-locked me a little bit earlier. Does anyone know why this happens? Anyways, on my next attempt, I entered every single room carefully in order to avoid that glitch again. And after dealing with some very cool feather skips, we get to the granny. And let me tell you, she's got some strong bones to be an old woman. How can she resist in the wind when I can't? The whole falling section was pretty weird, but nothing I can't surpass. The underwater section requires the use of Tech 3 actually. This is the first time it's given us a great advantage. And at last, we get to Badeline. The whole boss fight can be summed up this way. Most rooms are easy, but when they're hard, they are really hard. Either that or you have to think outside the box, like in this one, where just going up with the feather won't work, so you have to cancel the feather by dashing down here. Then there's also this room. When you hit her, you get sent to the nether with no way of coming back. This obviously requires left wind. It's not until this room where the actual problem begins though. I can get past the first feather with either left or right wind, but if I use right wind, I'm not gonna be able to get to the left side once I hit her. However, if I use left wind, I'm not gonna be able to even hit her there, since the knockback from before will just kill me. I tried dashing down to cancel it and grab onto this platform, but even though it was really close, it didn't seem like it was gonna be doable. The solution was waiting 118 hours, of course. After that room, there isn't anything worth mentioning, which means we can unlock our second dash and move on to Summit. In 0 meters, we can see that double dash will help us a lot in this challenge. I speedrun that checkpoint until the very last room, where I found myself in a sticky situation once more. With right wind, even with my 2 dashes, there was no way I was reaching that purple orb there. I had to try with left wind then. By using left wind, I was at an even worse position, since I couldn't even get to the point I got to earlier. It felt pixels away, but I just couldn't touch Badeline's orb. Wait, don't take that out of context. But yeah, I had to ask Round Window again. Huge shoutouts to him for real. In 500 meters, apart from this diagonal dash here and a few tight dashes near the end, everything is quite straightforward. The same thing applies for 1000 meters. Green blocks offer no issues in the slightest. The only kind of difficult room in 1500 meters is the very last one, but by being precise and using your terrain strategically, it's nothing we can't beat. The platform that gave us trauma came back in 2000 meters, but thankfully we don't even need it. It's simple to skip it with wind. The next room also took me a couple of tries, but if you know what to do, it shouldn't be so hard. In the last room, we learned something new about the wind variant. If the original room has wind that stops and then goes again, that will override the variant and replace it, which means the room stays the same. With that, we get to 2500 meters. Summit is going quite swiftly. The Mirror Temple section had quite a few things to mention. Of course it's the Mirror Temple section. For example, we need to do Tech 2 here, but it's actually really close to death. Or the key, oh wait, the key, what? You normally bubble up, but I cannot bubble up. I also tried doing the skip, but the wind physics were screwing me over, so I had no clue how to get this one. Thankfully, it is possible, and even without spinner stunning or spinner freezing. In this one, we need to cancel the bubble and get pushed to the next one by the wind. Finally, we get to the last room, a room where you do a lot of going back and forth, which means we'll have to do a lot of stuff to get through it. I could consistently get to this part with little to no issues, but I didn't know what to do afterwards. Sure, I could use my 2 dashes to grab the wall, but then I couldn't get to the dash platform without dashing again. Unless I did it very quickly. I still had a bit to go in this room though, and climbing these dash platforms didn't look like an easy task. It took me some tries to figure it out, but by grabbing onto the left one first, you can then change to the other one and do one of those one-sided wall jumps here. Now it's just the final problem, entering the bubble to get to the orb. But just look at this! Using the bubble doesn't help a single bit, and even by using my 2 dashes, I wouldn't be able to get to the orb. I swear, the temple has something against me. So yes, you do need to stun for it, but only a really short one. We're at the home stretch, baby, and boy do I love spam jumping. We have another interesting case of wind here. You see, there's usually downwards wind in this section, so what happens now? Well, this time it actually stacks, so there's diagonal wind. However, the game cannot process all the particles or something, so you can actually see the sideways wind. But trust me, it's there, you'll be able to see it. In the first couple of flags, there aren't really many difficult sections. Then I low-key just started jumping on spikes. I think I might be going insane. In Flag 20, there's a section where you gotta spam up dashes, but doing so, I'm gonna be dragged little by little to get killed eventually. To solve the issue, I needed to do diagonal dashes every once in a while. That leads us to this upwards wind section. There was a hiccup in Flag 17 because I didn't really know how to reach the cloud, but it was just doing a wall jump and an up dash. Flag 14 is also horrific. With right wind, you can very easily clear the first part, but then you can't alternate between these two walls. With left wind, you can't even get far enough to see the walls anyways, so right wind it is, I guess. The only thing I could think of was trying to save a dash somehow to use it there, and after trying a bunch of stuff, I figured out it's possible to pass the first spinner pillar without dashing, and by dashing diagonally and perfectly grabbing the wall, you can use your dash to go. Never mind, that doesn't work. Well, if you don't grab the wall below and dash upwards beforehand, you can grab the upper wall. Then it comes down to doing a really precise jump. In Flag 13, I could easily get to the final part and grab all the blue coins, but actually fitting through the hole seemed impossible. I had to use right wind to get there, and I needed to grab this blue coin to continue, but from here I just couldn't seem to get enough distance and height to get past it. I asked round window once again, and it's actually possible to do it without spinner freezing or spinner stunning. He told me I could probably do this RTA, but Flag 12 is also way too hard to explain. You have to really abuse refills, and I actually managed to get pretty much to the last one, but I just couldn't figure out how to climb up there. I once again needed help, unfortunately. Flag 11 is finally a change of pace, cause I could finally beat one for my own. But then we're back to impossibleness in Flag 10. With left wind, you're not gonna get anywhere after the spring. With right wind, you're not gonna get to the spring. Once again, you need spinner freezing. Flag 9 was actually not that bad by doing diagonals, and the rest of flags until Flag 3 weren't that bad compared to the hell we've completed. I ended up using left wind in Flag 3, but the feather movements had to be almost perfect in order to beat it. Flag 2 was more like a puzzle than anything. Using the refills cleverly is essential for completion, and even then, it is really tight. I managed to get up here, but I was stuck on what to do after, and I had spent so much time trying that I just couldn't handle it anymore. Thankfully, my goat was able to beat it for me. Flag 1 is really easy, of course, which means that the game is finally completed. This is one of the most difficult challenges I have ever attempted on this channel, and I'm glad to say that yes, it is possible to beat Celeste's main campaign with left crazy or right crazy wind if you allow yourself to choose which one. Thanks again to Round Window for all the help, and I hope you enjoyed the challenge. Thanks for watching.